Improv. When you think of improv, most people think of that TV show, Whose Line Is It Anyway? Improv is interesting because it's acting, but it's not reading a script. It's not doing something pre-prepared. It's flying by the seat of your pants. And I'll tell you, in any business, you know that flying by the seat of your pants could sometimes save the day. So we're going to learn some techniques about improv today on the Phil Cooke Podcast. Kelsey and Chris, welcome to the podcast. I think this is the first time you've been on, right?
Yep.
Yes. Thanks for having us.
That's what I thought. Now, in the interest of full disclosure for listeners and viewers, Kelsey's my daughter, Chris, my son-in-law. So just in the interest of, full disclosure, people need to know that. But we're talking today about improv, comedy, their career, stuff like that. I think if you've ever been interested in improv, this is the episode you definitely need to listen to. So let's go back a little ways. Kelsey, I know more about you because you've been in the entertainment thing your whole career. I think you started out. What was your first thing you ever did? You remember?
Well, I got an agent at the ripe age of 7 years old in Los Angeles. So and I think before that, when we lived in Oklahoma, I was doing all sorts of infomercials with my mom. And so I kind of grew up in the industry.
That's true. And I was using you as an extra and a crew member and an assistant when you were a little kid. Now,
right.
Chris, I first met you doing the Biola Youth Theater. What were you doing stuff before that at Biola University in Los Angeles?
So I started in youth theater. My friend dragged me to an audition. I did not want to do it. I started, I think, when I was 16. I didn't do any theater, any commercial, nothing in the entertainment industry before that. And it just took a friend dragging me to an audition, and then I fell in love with it.
Yep.
Interesting. That happened pretty quick.
Yeah, instantly.
Now,
and then I became the leads of those shows, and then he hated me. But anyway, besides that.
Now, did you two meet at Biola when you were in the theater and Kelsey was in college, or did you meet at
Yeah, we were both
Vanguard?
Involved with Biola Youth Theater.
Okay.
And that's how we met.
She was the assistant choreographer, and I was a student.
I remember. Okay.
Very dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all coming back. And then you ended up going to you went to Biola, but you finished at Vanguard. And after Vanguard, you decided to get married, go to New York. Tell us a little bit about that whole period of your life.
Yeah, we hopped in a U-Haul and drove to New York. And then on the way there, literally the apartment that we had lined up fell through.
Yep.
So halfway across the United States, we did not have a place to live.
We did the poor actor thing for a while.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to do it. I feel like you earn a badge. And then we did the Broadway thing. We auditioned for Broadway shows. We did some touring. And then I actually fell back into TV and film, which brought me back to LA.
Yeah, and that's when I got involved in the Groundlings Theater, actually, when we came back after New York.
Okay. Now, back to New York, Chris, you finished your degree at Pace University there, which is a big theater type of program there.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yeah, so I got my degree in a BFA in musical theater, which is very masculine. I like to tell people that. No, but honestly, you know what I loved about that school is that all my teachers were actively working, which apparently is sometimes rare for certain colleges and schools. So all my best teacher there was a casting director. So right out of college, he was already getting me auditions, which was fantastic.
So how long did you stay in New York?
Almost 7 years.
Yeah.
7 years.
7 years.
Yeah.
Which is wild. I mean, we did the standing in lines in the cold for auditions. we did it all.
Did it all.
And then you decided there were more opportunities in LA, so you moved back to LA. And,
on a different side of things, right?
Yeah.
We came back for pilot season, and I had booked 3 different television pilots. One with Fred Savage, several that were just up for release, and none of them took after that. So we just had a decision to make after that point. Do we stay or do we go back? And we decided, since the television thing was going really well, we decided to stay. And then our agent actually suggested that we take improv classes. And that's how our improv journey began at the Groundlings.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Now, it's funny you say that those pilots didn't take. I don't think most people listening to this understand the number of projects in Hollywood and elsewhere that happen that never see the light of day.
Even with big stars.
I've actually met screenwriters in Hollywood who have spent their whole career. They're like my age, and they spent their entire career writing screenplays, not a single one, and they've been paid for them, but not a single one has been made into a movie. So that is not an unusual thing at all in the industry.
Part of the process.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
part of the process.
I think someone sees a resume, they're like, "Oh, you've done 2 things." You're like, "I've actually done 80 things."
And even pilot season is sort of a weird thing now. It doesn't really happen anymore as a season. It just happens throughout. But in this particular year, it was a season, and then they have upfronts, which is when the networks decide which ones they want to actually give full seasons to and give the green light to. And none of mine got the green light. So there you have it.
And so you started Improv. How did
Yep.
you get connected to the whole Improv thing? You ended up at Groundlings Theater Company in Hollywood. How did that whole thing start?
Our agent just said you should put this on your resume. That's it.
Yeah, she said it'll help with commercial auditions. Take Improv. So I looked at the Groundlings and I noticed that they did character focused improv. So you create characters and you improvise with them. And then we thought, well, that would be better training for commercial TV film if we were learning how to create characters.
There are a lot of schools of thought and lots of different improv styles out there you can choose from.
And then just kept going through the program and just flew through it.
Well,
and then ended up loving it.
And he actually became a main company member. I had a baby in between.
What does that mean, main company member?
So main company member, there's 30 members at the Groundlings, and they collectively are one artistic director.
And you have to get selected to be one of those members, right?
Yeah, I mean, so it was a 6-year process. I had to. The bulk of the ending was a 1.5 years of writing sketches weekly, performing every Sunday. I wrote maybe 20 sketches a week for a 1.5 years straight, costuming them, getting wigs, memorizing. It was the most intensive program. But by the end, I had 500, 600 sketches under me that I had written. So it was the best training I've ever gotten.
Yeah, it's an amazing program. I mean, we went to see 1 million shows there when you guys were involved and loved it. I mean, the level of talent is really quite remarkable.
They never stop working you, and which is good though.
And you ended up being on the board of directors, right, Chris?
Yeah, so I sat on the board for a very long time, even through the pandemic, which was a wild time to sit on a board going, how do we keep this thing running? It was really great to see the other side. I would encourage everyone, man, if you can sit on a board, I learned more sitting on the board. I didn't really fully understand how the company ran.
Yeah.
It is a nonprofit organization.
Yeah.
Just like the one that we created. It's a nonprofit organization, which most people just don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that for people that are watching or listening outside of LA, people don't realize just how much California shut down during the pandemic. It's insane. And so
it really was a bubble.
You helping guide a theater company, working as a board member in a theater company, trying to get people to come when, we've joked sometimes about your kids, Kennedy and Clyde, that they were in Zoom school for 2 or 3 years in California, whereas kids in other places were in Zoom school for 30 days.
Went right back.
And so I can imagine trying to keep a theater going where you're getting hundreds of people in a room. And that was a difficult time, I'm sure.
And they did some unique things to pivot. Chris was kind of leading the way when it came to digital shows and recording things.
We did Zoom improv shows,
That's good.
Which was wild.
And filmed things.
But people still were craving comedy at the time, so they said, I don't care if it's Zoom. We just want something.
It's sort of where content creation really took its flight during the creation, during the pandemic.
That's also the time you started producing your first movie, Reopening. Tell me about how that came about.
Yeah, that was great. I mean,
a buddy of ours,
Matt
Coppin, who used to be part of Cooke Media Group as well. He we just came up with the idea, like, we're sitting around doing nothing. Might as well make a movie.
And we made it about a theater trying to reopen during the pandemic, which hit very close to home.
Yeah. Very relatable.
I mean, we filmed it at the Groundlings. People weren't working. It was a prime time to go, let's create something with high talented performers.
People were excited that we were doing stuff, so I think we got away with a lot that we probably couldn't have gotten away with otherwise, as far as free locations and people just, working on the promise that we would pay them later, because they weren't doing anything else.
So, which you did, by the way, you did make your money back. You paid it. And everybody got paid. It was great. So, but the interesting thing about it was that, you funded it yourself. You didn't have investors, I don't think, right?
We did do some crowdfunding, but we basically, it was a matching program. We put in our own money and then we asked investors to come alongside, family, friends. We did a little bit of crowdfunding on the promise that we would, have a big release, which we did. We paid that out and it was really fun.
Yeah.
And it's a mockumentary that was, a lot like Spinal Tap or Waiting for Guffman or Best in Show,
Yeah.
and which means it was largely improvised, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
and
entire,
very,
yeah, go ahead.
and very easy to film during the shutdown because we were able to keep things small. Skeleton crew, one-on-one filming for interviews. That's where we started, where things were really shut down, and then we opened it up to larger scenes as things opened up.
And it lives on Blaze TV now. If you want to
Okay,
watch it.
people can download it and they go to Blaze.tv or
Yeah.
Google Blaze TV, and they can download it and
Mhm.
see the film. So it won a ton of awards. I have to say, you guys were on the road all the time, accepting awards from film festivals all over the country. It was a huge hit.
Yeah, with it being our first film, we really wanted to apply to all the film festivals. We just
Yeah.
had no idea. What are the good ones? What are the mediocre ones? So we said, let's just go for it. If this is our first film, let's
Yeah.
throw it at all the film festivals. And
Yeah.
we learned a lot going through the film festival run of
Yeah.
film festivals
it
that
was
are
a-
maybe more of a scam, some that aren't.
Maybe
That's true.
it was on the tail end of COVID, so the pandemic. So
Yeah.
it wasn't you weren't able to get it in theaters because theaters were shut down. So
Yeah.
you even struggled with that, but winning all the awards, really validated the film. I think in a big
It was
way.
a marketing strategy for us, a little bit of PR. And with something like this that's more independent and experimental, it was a good way to show people, no, really, this validates that this is a legitimately good movie, we promise. We had
Yep.
so many, even friends and family that came to see it that said, you know what, I came into this thinking it might be really bad. I'm just going to have to say, oh, great job, guys, and lie to your face. They're like, actually, it was really good. So,
Okay.
That's the best compliment.
that's the best compliment.
So somewhere during that time, you decided to move to Franklin, Tennessee, just outside of Nashville. Was it during the filming, or during the film period, or
it's
after
wild.
it, or
Funny
what
story.
happened?
You know, it's wild. We filmed some B-roll in Franklin for our film with no intention
No idea.
to ever move here.
Nope.
Yep.
We even renamed some buildings with some,
Yeah.
like the Cranklin Theater instead of Franklin.
And
thinking,
for your viewers, it's a little town right outside of Nashville. It's sort of, a little
Yeah, true.
suburban
Yeah.
town right outside Nashville. But so
but
we'd never
then-
been there before.
but then ended up moving here, which is just hilarious, and we love it. I mean, we screened the film recently, and again, we thought no one would ever see, Franklin, and we
Nope.
changed the name of signs. So when the actual Franklin community came and saw the film, they're like, "This is Franklin." We're like, "We didn't know we'd be back
We didn't know we were
here."
going to be here. Yep.
That's
But
that's funny.
it's a growing film community here, and that's kind of where we found Franklin, was through friends who moved there to keep doing film, and it was a kind of a place where we could be amongst other like-minded people who want to keep
Yep.
making great work.
Well, I have to say, during the pandemic, a ton of Hollywood people moved to Dallas, Franklin, Florida. They moved all over the country. Chattanooga is becoming a big center. Atlanta
That's right.
has been a big center for a long time. But everybody I meet, when we came out to visit you a number of times, and everybody I would meet were transplants from LA. So it's you're right, and I think there's a creative energy in Franklin that I must say used to be in Hollywood but doesn't exist in that way in Hollywood anymore. Just a real excitement here about making movies, and
People
that you
are
don't see in
hungry.
many
There's
other places.
definitely a craving to keep creating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
You-
So then you started doing improv, right? Am I jumping ahead here?
No. So then we launched Oddity Improv, and we started at a car detail shop, just basically a space that
Yeah.
would let us use it for rehearsals.
Really, and
training.
the purpose of creating it was we just really missed improv. We missed that creative energy, and then two, we realized there was something missing here when it came to the training of talent in the area. There is some training, and there is there are classical acting schools in Nashville, but there's nothing that's quite like this here in our county, in our area.
And we wanted to find other comedy people.
Yeah.
We just said, where are they out here? We didn't know, there wasn't like a class or a certain thing you go, this is the comedy community.
Yeah.
So we just said, well, let's start it, and then they'll come to us. And it worked.
Yeah.
That's pretty great. And I love that you started a car detail shop. I
Yeah.
mean, why not?
Sort of like how Google and Facebook started.
Our neighbor, I was telling
Yeah.
him what we were trying to
He
do.
started in a garage.
And he's like, I own a car detail shop. You guys want to meet in there? And we went,
Sure.
sure.
Our neighbor.
Why not? Why not?
Yep.
So it's and you progress to a 99 seat theater or something that similar to that,
Very
right?
West Hollywood style, 99th Scene Theater, really cool part of town at the Factory in Franklin. And now actually we are about to announce our next location. It has not been confirmed, but we do have a date for our next shows. It's just
And so let me just tell everybody, go to we'll put it in the show notes for the podcast. Yep. We'll put the information, the website, what is the website for Oddity, by the way?
OddityImprov.com.
Yep.
Oddity Improv, ODDITY, OddityImprov.com. So let's talk about improv generally, because I think here's the thing. It's not just for actors. It's for anybody. Chris and I and Kelsey have talked about a class for pastors, people in the pulpit, those moments really when you go off script or you're not sure what happens or a disaster happens and you just got to fly by the seat of your pants and make it up off the top of your head. That's true of a real estate presentation. It's true in a business meeting. It could be true in any kind of a scenario. So I think improv is not just for actors. It could be for anybody. Are you finding that's the case?
Yeah, I mean, it teaches you, you don't get to pause when you're at a pitch meeting. You don't get to go, hang on a second, let me gather my thoughts.
Yes.
No, it's all a performance, and that doesn't mean fake. That just means anytime you're presenting, you're on a stage, people are watching everything. Your body movement, are you looking down? Are you stumbling over your words? Improv teaches you, no matter what you're given, you have to push through. You have to get through it. And so, yes, it's for everyone. It's not just for performers.
And in fact, we have youth programs where we teach kids how to be more confident. It's great for self-confidence and speaking skills, social skills, everything.
Just a little thing of telling the youth, like, hey, guys, eye contact. You're talking down at the ground, right? Those are little skills that will help them in the future in any job they're in. Literally something as simple as eye contact.
So it's not just a theater company, it's classes, and you do teaching for all ages,
corporate
right?
events. We do corporate trainings with whole companies. We'll do corporate events, corporate retreats. People bring us out to teach them, their companies, how to more effectively communicate and all those things.
And a lot of companies, are meeting on Zoom. And so we've even done Zoom team building workshops, giving them something. Zoom can get very boring as a company. And so giving them team building games to do before you start the workday, all those things are very helpful.
And let me interrupt and say that if somebody's listening or watching out there that has a company, these guys do a great job with a corporate event. I mean, bringing them in to do training for your team. And the truth is, if you're a car dealer, if you're a real estate company, if you're an insurance company, I mean, if you're, you work with teachers, whatever, their performance can be so improved by learning the principles of improv. I remember I spoke at a big conference in Florida a number of years ago, and it was a big conference, and the Secretary of Defense was there for the U.S. The governor was there. It was a lot of high-level business leaders. And right in the middle of my talk, I was there to talk about media stuff. And right in the middle of my talk, one of the big key set pieces just fell right over, right next to me, barely missed me. And
what do you do?
It was the initials of the name of the conference. I forgot what it was, but one of those initials just crashed. Oh. And it was a great example. The funny thing was I'd been criticizing that logo. I was talking about logos and why they matter and how to make an effective logo. And one of the things I talked about was churches and ministry organizations need to stop using flames in their logo. Every church in America has a flame or a cross or a globe or a dove. If you've got a flame, cross, globe, or dove in your logo, you're one of a billion. And this happened to be in the middle of the logo was this set piece that was a flame. And right in the middle of my talk about it, the flame crashed. And it was almost planned. But
see, that's fantastic. Because we tell people in our class that there's no mistakes in improv. Everything is gold. So something like that happens, you have
always
a choice.
An opportunity.
You can ignore it while the audience stares at it the entire rest of your speech.
Right.
Or you can use it and be thankful that happened because that just enhanced your speech. Everyone is now going to remember your talk even more because of that. Use everything. There's no mistakes. Everything's gold.
This is why I think pastors especially, because weird things happen in church services. I remember I grew up in the South and my dad was a pastor, but I remember one Sunday in the middle of my dad's message, the back door's open, the front door of the church open, guy walks in and he's pushing a bicycle and he's wearing a Speedo and a tank top. And he pushes his bicycle all the way down to the third row from the front. and parked the bike and just sat on a row. I sat down and listened to my dad's message. And it really threw my dad, but he recovered really well, welcomed the guy. Afterwards, everybody assumed the guy was a nut, but he turned out to be super gracious. I think he just didn't know how to act in church and thought that was cool. But it was a great example of you see stuff like that in churches all the time, and you need to react. You need to make it happen.
The biggest mistake in improv too is you think, well, if something happens, the audience saw it, and they will not let it go until you acknowledge it in an improv scene. And same in real life on a stage. If something happens, you got to acknowledge it. If you drop a pencil, you better pick it up, or they're going to stare at it the rest of the whole show.
Yes, I should emphasize here, since we're talking about pastors, that what we do with Oddity Improv is that we pride ourselves on teaching clean comedy, because that's something that we believe is smarter. We believe it's harder to be funny and actually stay clean. And so as we teach that, we just teach people to be grounded in real characters, and it's a clean product. So. Yeah.
Well, we're actually seeing a real. I think there's a real wave of that right now. You guys directed a show here in Nashville recently with Nate
Bargatze.
Bargatze. Yeah, that's him. Funny guy, and he's clean, and yet he's incredibly funny. He was on the Today Show the other day talking about a new big event he's doing, and so I think I'm seeing a wave of you guys. I love the way you say cleanish comedy. And you can still be edgy, you can still have fun with it, but it's a great example. So without giving away secrets, give me some techniques or some tips or ideas about improv, how to be more spontaneous, how to be in the moment when something happens like that.
I think a fun game you can play with let's just say your team, right, is that pitch a really bad idea. You start in a room, pitch a bad idea. It's about a new watch. You should say, this new watch has an umbrella on it. That's a horrible idea. Yeah. Then the next person goes, yes, and build upon that umbrella watch and go around a circle and see by the end if you actually made a great product. Even if the product ends up still being awful, what you just did is, as a team, as you went, no matter what dumb idea you have, I'm not going to force my opinion on it. I'm going to add to it.
Yes, and if you then do a flip on that and do yes, but try the experiment, see how it feels. So instead of saying yes, and he says there's an umbrella on my watch. Yes, and it's glittery because we want it to be sparkly and fun. Instead of saying yes, and I'm going to say yes, but it's not raining outside. And
let's see how sluggish that conversation will be going around saying yes, but.
Feel how it feels.
So that's a great tool. We do it in a scene, especially day one when people are first getting into improv. We're saying, okay, you're here to build upon an idea, not push your own idea.
So the interesting thing to me about improv is acting is performing something somebody else has written. Improv is just making it up as you go.
On the spot.
To me, that's just wild. But it's risky, I guess. It's terrifying in many ways, right?
There's something freeing about it. I've said recently that being on stage and doing improv has actually relieved some of that stress. Whereas people come into improv or they think about improv and they go, oh, that's so scary. To me, there's a sense of freedom in not having to memorize lines. I just kind of show up as I am and I'm free to create.
But with anything, there's people go, oh, I'm afraid of that because they don't know that there's tools to do it well. There's things that we have a bag of tools so we never get stuck on stage. Okay. So on the outside, you go, I could never do that. But that's like looking at a violin player going, I could never do that. You're like, well, no, there's things they've trained for to be able to do that. It's the same with improv. There's tools that help you get through it.
Talk about attitude, mental attitude. Before you guys walk out on stage, before you do a improv session, how do you get the mindset to be able to be in a position to do that? How do you frame this? What do you think about?
We play a great game because that's called Mind Meld, and this is again a great game for team building. Is that you say a word, I say a word, we say 3, 2, 1, we say a word. So 3, 2, 1, car.
Makeup.
Car and makeup. Now, it's the job of someone else to go, what's a word that would tie those together? Car and makeup. Okay. My brain thinks mirror, but I don't. So then we go to another person. We go 3, 2, 1. We say a new word. Mirror.
Red.
Mirror and red. You keep trying to the goal is to say the same word at the same time. And that's a great game to do before a show because it gets everyone in sync going,
or before
okay,
a meeting.
where are we at right now mentally?
Yeah.
Are we on the same page or are we scattered? And what you just saw is Kelsey and I are scattered. But that's a great game to play before a show to get people in sync.
Well,
before a
so many companies do brainstorming. I'm not a big fan of brainstorming. I think it's in many ways it's better to go off individually and come up with great ideas and then come together.
Mhm.
But they get stuck in brainstorming because people are afraid to throw something out. They're afraid of an idea. And a lot of it is because leaders tend to evaluate the idea at that moment. And my feeling is, let's not have much judgment in a brainstorming session. Let's get everything on the table, no matter how preposterous it seems. And with these kind of techniques, you're going to help come up with something because, the idea that could save the company could be the weirdest idea at first,
Yeah.
but maybe a variation of it could work. So I think these are tools that anybody could use anywhere.
Yes. It's funny, in an improv scene, someone throws out an idea. If the next person doesn't build on that idea and throws out another idea, the scene goes start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. So just brainstorming, here's an idea, nah,
Yeah.
here's an idea, nah. No, you have to eventually pick something like we said and then build upon it, even if you hate the idea. Because if you come together as a team of performers, as a company, and go, like we said earlier, no matter what the idea is, we're going to build upon it.
And you'll find new ideas that either make it work or you'll all find together that it doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
That's interesting. So, give me something that if I was to say, tell me the one thought about improv that you would like to leave with people, what would it be?
We both look at each other. Improv works when you're positive, when you have positivity and you have joy. It is so much easier to be creative when you're excited and happy about something. Improv does not work when you're nervous, when you're doubting everything you're saying. Everything falls flat. Every idea feels bad. So again, I always apply improv on stage and to the real world, right? If you're excited about something, you don't need to be worried about all the words and making it perfect coming out of your mouth.
Yeah.
It will come out great because you're excited about it. You're passionate about it.
And like you said, I think improv really truly is for everyone. But I would venture to say even further that if you have improv in your tool belt as a tool, whether it's for business or pleasure or what have you in any area of your life for relationships, that you will actually be a step above in your field of whatever you're doing because you have that tool in your belt.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Now, before somebody says, look, improv's not for me, I'm an accountant, so this would never work.
Right.
Tell me some of the job, people that have been coming to you for classes, coming and auditioning for your main company. What kind of jobs on the outside world do some of them do that would shock people, that would surprise people?
Let's see. Let me go through them and then we'll see
Security?
the ones that are shocked. Yeah, a security guard.
Okay.
There's a security operations in general.
An insurance guy, which I guess he talks to people, right? So that's helpful. We've had event planners, which those are behind the scenes people.
People that work in politics.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We had a film editor who actually said, I know I'm behind the scenes, but improv's actually helped me on the fly with film editing.
Yeah, DP, shooters, writers, lots of writers.
Starbucks employee.
Carpenter, I'm thinking about Jonathan.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, we have a furniture builder. He builds
Woodworker.
custom furniture, and he is a fantastic improviser. Never had the training, got into it. And, I mean, this is a creative guy, right? He's got a creative mind with building furniture.
We have a teacher.
So it's the full spectrum. I mean, just everyone has taken a class with us and has found value in it that applies to their job.
Right.
So number one, I think if people listening, if you're in the Nashville area, you need to look up Oddity. It's just such a powerful tool and a school and a theater program. And if you're, enroll, because it can help you from whatever walk of life you're in. If you're a brain surgeon, there are times you need to fly by the seat of your pants. You encounter something you're not used to, or you don't understand, or it's off script. What do you do? But also come to see the shows. Go to the show notes. You'll find
and we do these one-day workshops. They're 45 minutes. They're with a group. They're sometimes free. They're before a show. And you can come going, oh, I'm going to be in a group. We're not going to throw you on stage alone and go dance monkey. It's not that at all. It's a group setting. So come try it.
And we'll be announcing our classes soon.
Yeah. You mean that's like an introductory thing you do before a show?
Anyone can come to it. We've had a nurse come. I mean, literally anyone can come to it.
And just as, I'm sorry, Kelsey, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Oh, we're just announcing some classes coming up. We'll be announcing classes, new shows, and all of that on our website, on our Instagram. And at our website, you can also scroll down and sign up for our newsletter to get announcements.
And just a reminder, the corporate thing, you know, if you have a company, if you have a team, I know you've done this with an ad agency, you've done it with some other companies, to go in and just spend an afternoon working with their team and help them get more open to spontaneity and creativity. It's really transformative for a company.
And that information is also on our website. It's oddityimprov.com/corporate.
Yeah, we've worked with production companies, and they wanted to get on the same page of how to actually write as a writing team. We worked with an ad agency. They wanted to get good at getting a bad idea from a client and going, how do we make this work? So yeah, we cater it to all different types of businesses.
And you're still doing acting and stuff. I know you did that commercial for Gold recently.
I am King Tut. I mean, and that's another thing is we want to be constantly training at Oddity Improv. So when the audition comes up, we're not rusty. So that's the actor tool, right? Is that continue to perform, continue to train. So when the opportunity comes up, you're not getting off your couch, you know?
And like we said before, we're using Oddity Improv. We created it to create an avenue for people towards that filmmaking business and to help with giving a platform to actors and talent here in the Nashville area.
Yeah. And for the record, Oddity Improv is a nonprofit organization. And if you feel the need to or desire to support what they do, we'll give you that information in the show notes as well. I think it's a great organization to be a part of and support. It's been super for the community here in Franklin. And so I think it's a fantastic effort. So last thought, anything you want to leave with people before we go?
I got into improv because it sounded terrifying. And I love it.
Yes. And wasn't it Eleanor Roosevelt that said, do something every day that scares you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's true. All right. That's our word for today. Do something every day that scares you. And improv is a great place to start because you don't have to memorize anything. That's my favorite part.
Yeah. Show up.
Well, thank you guys for being a part of the show. That's fantastic. And
thank you for having us.
We appreciate what you're doing. Well, as we discussed, you can find all the information about Oddity Improv, their classes, their theater programs, and if you'd like to support them as a nonprofit, what they do, in the show notes. And this would be a good time to mention my book, Ideas on a Deadline, How to Be Creative When the Clock is Ticking. It's a great example of being creative when you are facing a deadline. It's a lot like improv in that you got no backstop. You have no alternative. You have to go on. And I think creativity is so like that. I think sometimes our best creativity comes out when we don't have a plan B, And that's an important thing to remember. So if you'd love to really amp up your creativity in the face of deadlines, when you have that report due on Tuesday, when you have to make that presentation day after tomorrow, pastors, Sundays come with relentless regularity. How can you be creative when you're under pressure? That's what this book is all about. There's a lot of books on creativity out there. Mine, to my knowledge, is the only one about how to be creative when the pressure's mounting, when you have a deadline and you still have to deliver. Ideas on a Deadline, How to Be Creative When the Clock is Ticking. I'd encourage you to get it. And check out my blog, philcooke.com, for more information and articles and blog posts I'm writing that as a creative leader, they're going to be a big part of your life and help you along the way. I'll see you next time on the Phil Cooke Podcast.